Hello everyone, and welcome to the very first series on Min to Max 20's D&D Homebrew content channel, JD Homebrew. In this series, I'll be going over all of the primary D&D class versions that I've spent a significant amount of time creating and refining in order to bring an expanded and more enjoyable experience to the players that use these classes to partake in grand adventures and explore the worlds and stories that Dungeon Masters create for them. In this first video, I'm going to be going over and explaining the various reasons on why I decided to do this and can kind of give some insight and context as to what you can expect in each of the class videos. So, this kind of all began back in 2023 towards the end of the year when they were releasing, Wizards of the Coast was releasing a lot of their Unearthed Arcana and kind of giving some insight as to what people could expect in their newest version of D&D in 2024. And so me and a couple of friends, we were going through all the various classes and we were seeing some good changes that we were liking. And, but we were holding our breath a bit for Ranger. We were really hoping that Ranger, after, 10 years, we would hope that Wizards of the Coast could finally, bring them up, bring Ranger up, kind of put it in line with a lot of the other classes and really give them an identity for, for the class and have features that back it up. But unfortunately, to really no one's surprise, we saw that Ranger was still kind of at the bottom of the barrel, was not getting the love that we were really hoping it would have. And so this kind of, sparked something within me of like, if you want something done right, you gotta do it yourself. And so that kind of started this journey of revising this class, implementing things that I liked and that I kind of saw over the years that I would want in this class and want to be able to use. And so with that, I then just kind of started building it up, kind of from the ground up, realizing what I wanted this class to kind of be and identify with, and kind of as the in terms of the role that I'd play in a party. And so once I had finished that and I kind of got that kind of got it all revised and in a good place, I realized that comparing this now new Ranger to all the other classes, it just kind of felt like now there's a large power scaling difference. It felt like now Ranger was up in a different category on its own compared to these other classes that still had massive gaps in its level progression and all these different things. And so I realized that I kind of had to, at this point, almost go through and do all these other classes. And I really enjoyed bringing Ranger up and building it out and really making it what I wanted it to be and what I thought it would be. And so with that, I was like, okay, you know what, I guess I just kind of got to do this with all of them. And so I did. And so, kind of jumping around all over the place. Didn't really necessarily go from Barbarian onward. Didn't really do it in any sort of particular order. Just kind of did it as inspiration hit me. And so yeah. And some of the biggest things that I was really considering when going through, kind of starting with Ranger and then going through all of them, is I really wanted every level for a character to give the player some sort of feeling of accomplishment and progression. I wanted every single level in a character's kind of leveling progression from 1 all the way to 20. I wanted it to reward the player with something fun, cool, unique. I wanted it to give them some sort of feature or ability that made their class feel like, made it, their class and their character make it feel like they were actually gaining something, that they were, developing these skills, becoming more, proficient in the things that the class that they chose is good at, and kind of giving this class more identity as it made its way through the levels. And so that's one thing I was really really cognizant of, was making it so that each level gave the player something new, gave this character something new to do that then the player could utilize and make new encounters more enjoyable, make things easier, whatever it might be. I wanted it so that the players felt like they could look forward to each level, and that when they accomplished that they were good to go, and they unlocked something, and that they could, do something new going forward. Because one thing I did not like about the 2014 versions of the classes was just the fact that there was a lot of gaps. It felt like, especially for the primary casters, there were so many gaps of where you could go multiple levels without getting anything. You'd just be rewarded with spells or whatever it was, and those spells are cool. I think that these classes should be getting features that make it feel like the identity of this class is growing, that they're progressing, that you're learning new things as you're adventuring. And so that was one thing I really had at the forefront of my mind. And then a big thing also that I noticed in the 2014 version, and even with some of the Unearthed Arcana, and even in this new 2024 version of classes, is that the back half of the classes kind of feel lackluster. They don't feel as powerful, and as they shouldn't and they don't ramp up as much as they should. And so that was another big thing I was kind of focusing on. I really wanted the back half of the class to feel like you're really gaining powerful features, and you're really, unlocking the potential of this class and what it kind of stood for and what the identity of it was. And so that's something I really focused on with these new versions. I really wanted to make the back half level, and I say back half, I mean levels 10 and onward, to really feel like, okay, every level I'm unlocking something significant. Because generally, as you progress in D&D, your characters, they do progress the front half pretty quickly. They'll progress to levels 1, 2, 3, I'd say 1 to 5 relatively quickly. And as you get higher and higher, the gaps become longer between leveling up, between the DM, giving that either that experience or hitting those milestones that you need to progress. And so I think that with that, it should be more significant when you actually hit those levels, and it should reward you. And that's another reason why I think every level should have something. I think that every level should have something, because as those gaps become wider and wider, then it makes it even more frustrating as a player if at level 11, the next thing you're level 11, the next thing you get is until like level 13 or 14, and the gaps are so wide between those that now you have to wait so long before you can actually feel like you're having new tools in your tool belt to be able to utilize. And so that's a big thing. And then also with my class versions, though, I wanted to make the front half ramp up a bit quicker too. I wanted to kind of sprinkle some things in that made the front half of the classes feel like they were gaining things relatively quickly, in the sense of the arsenal was expanding rapidly, so that way the beginning of D&D doesn't feel like you're just it doesn't feel so mundane. I wanted to give little things here and there to make it at least feel like the class is quickly showing what it's meant to be and how you can utilize it in various scenarios. And so that's kind of the front half. I wanted to ramp up kind of quickly, and then I want the back half to kind of be this more powerful kind of slow burn of, like, if you manage to stick it out, then you can unlock some truly fun and exciting things. And then I also just wanted players to feel like they were also being rewarded to stay true to a class. I feel like there is a unfortunate understanding, or at least misconception, that if you don't multi-class, then you can't be as powerful as some other builds. Now, I think in certain capacities that is true. I do think that multi-classing can create a really fun and unique build that you can have, and it can give you an arsenal from multiple different avenues that can come together really awesome and really fun, and you can kind of overcome obstacles or circumstances or encounters in very unique ways that way. But I also wanted to make the back half of the class feel worth sticking out. I wanted it to feel like if you multi-class, you're giving up, that first level multi-class, you're giving up the 20th level feature. I really wanted to make these 20th level features for these classes to be something super significant, super cool, very unique to the class, and make it feel like, hey, if you multi-class, you're giving up, not only its 20th level ability, but then as you progress backwards from that, and as you start dumping levels somewhere else, you're losing out on these, super fun and powerful features. And so that's another reason why I wanted to build up that, levels 10 to 20 as well. And so I've already kind of mentioned it multiple times, but just to reemphasize the fact that I really, with the features of the classes, and kind of now not only adding more to the class, but I also wanted to make sure that the features that I was adding were ones that truly fit and kind of locked in nicely with already pre-existing features that 2024 had introduced, and that also this Unearthed Arcana and even the 2024 version of D&D has kind of implemented. I wanted them to just fit in nicely with those old ones, but then also introduce something new and expand upon the identity of what a class is. I think that each class should have something that kind of stands out and kind of makes it almost fit into a role of the party in some significant way. Like, for instance, Barbarian with their rages, building upon those, Bards with their inspiration, Wizards with their spells and understanding of the arcane. Just adding features that really elevated that and built upon that. That way it really felt like you were truly playing not only this kind of core class, but then also your subclass builds upon that and kind of gives it almost this unique identity. I wanted the core class to kind of have this foundational kind of understanding to it and what this class means, but then you can branch off from that with your subclasses, because I felt like older D&D, especially 2014, I felt like your subclass really kind of made up the majority of your of kind of the uniqueness and kind of the flavor of the class, whereas now you kind of have both coming together and making this overall identity come kind of together nicely. And so that's one of the big things I was focusing on. And then kind of a couple other things was I really had no intention of buying any new editions of D&D source materials or anything like that. I felt like Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro, kind of unfortunately has made some poor decisions in the past in terms of burning the community and just, kind of making, I'd say the majority of us feel put out in a certain way. And so I didn't feel like supporting them anymore in terms of buying any sorts of new books. And so that's kind of a big reason why I wanted to now, put together my own content and kind of be able to distribute that out to not only my players but also to the community as well, and kind of gives people some new things that they can look forward to that doesn't cost money, and you don't have to necessarily be supporting a company that if you feel burned by, or you feel like some bad business practices or whatever it is that you feel. You can, there's some updated content that'll be out there that you can feel like you can make your table feel a bit more fresh and and more and have a little bit more of new experiences and new mechanics implemented at the table. So and that's kind of a lot of the primary reasons as to why I've gone through, and it's taken me about over a year and a half to kind of go through and really refine and tweak and go over all these things. I can't tell you how many times I think I finally put a class to rest, and then I think of something randomly and I go back in and I adjust some things to try to make it so that it makes sense and the balancing is there and whatnot. And me and my table, we're currently playtesting a lot of these things, and so things might adjust over time. And I really hope that that if anybody watching these videos takes a liking to things, that you go ahead and do test them out as well and provide feedback in in the comment section of the videos, and that you kind of just try them out for yourself and just tweak them as you see fit. I mean, really, as soon as you kind of see the videos and you have access to the content, I mean, it's up to you. If you want to keep things, feel more than free to keep things. If you don't want to keep things, you don't want to, you can feel more than free to cut them out. But I think the one thing I love so much about D&D is just the fact that it really is, I mean, yes, you have the overarching company of Wizards of the Coast that kind of, pushes out, source materials and stuff like that, updates the game, but you really truly have everybody in the community coming together to give, to give their insight, to give their feedback, to release content, to make things new for one another. And that's why that's kind of what a lot of this kind of stems from, was to kind of, not only be able to enjoy this at my table, but also for the opportunity for everybody out there to also enjoy this stuff at their table if they see fit. So yeah, that's one of the biggest reasons right there as to why I'm uploading a lot of this stuff. And with that in mind, I actually use this a phenomenal website called the Homebrew. If you have not checked it out, I highly recommend it. You can actually also support them by donating to their website, because that's kind of how they keep everything operational and running. And but yeah, the Homebrew is where I've actually created all these PDFs and where I've created all these documents on. And so so I'll have the link for each of those Homebrew documents in the descriptions of each of the videos, and so that way you can check them out, look at them. I believe you can download them straight from the link, so you can have access to them as well. And and so that all these new versions of the D&D classes will be accessible. And so yeah, that's about kind of wraps up this introductory video. I really hope that you enjoy the things that I present to you in each of the class videos. It took me a long time, put some heart and soul into this. I really like where all the classes are at now. I of course would appreciate any feedback or comments on things that you like and see, and then even things that you might have some sort of insight on that you think that should be adjusted. I definitely would appreciate that as well. But I just would like to emphasize to keep things, obviously appropriate, and to keep things, positive, and do your best to just not, go on crazy rants and just, I would say, leave negative energy out there in the community. But I really look forward to sharing everything with you guys, and so I guess I'll see you all in the videos.